There's a moment in every narcissist's life that psychologists call reality collision, when decades of carefully constructed narratives about themselves collide violently with irrefutable evidence of who they really are. It's not a gentle realization or a gradual awakening. It's a psychological impact so brutal it can literally shatter a person. Jordan Peterson has documented hundreds of these meltdowns throughout his career. And what he discovered about this moment when reality finally hits with full force, it will shake your convictions about the limits of human mental resilience and the devastating nature of unfiltered truth. If you want to understand what's really going on inside a narcissist's mind when the mask falls, subscribe to the channel, like it, and comment below if you already suspected that one day this collapse would happen. The moment when reality hits isn't just an awakening. It's a collapse of the entire psychological architecture that has sustained an identity for decades. Imagine for a moment having built your entire life on a foundation you believed to be rock solid, only to discover it was quicksand. Now imagine that this discovery doesn't happen gradually, but all at once, with the full force of an emotional avalanche that destroys everything in its path. Peterson, drawing on deep insights from analytical psychology and decades of clinical observation, discovered that narcissists develop what he calls reality distortion fields, elaborate fields of alternative perception in which they are consistently the heroes, the victims, or the misunderstood in each situation. These fields can function for decades, shielding them from any information that contradicts their grandiose self-image. But can you imagine what happens when these distortion fields finally collapse? According to recent studies in the neuropsychology of trauma, the narcissistic brain experiences something similar to what happens during severe episodes of depersonalization, a fundamental breakdown in the ability to maintain a coherent narrative about oneself and one's place in the world. It's as if someone who's lived their entire life in a carefully programmed virtual reality is suddenly ripped from it and forced to confront the real world, except in this case, the real world is composed entirely of the wreckage they've left behind. The shock isn't just emotional, it's existential. It's discovering that every version of yourself you've ever believed in was a fabrication, and then reality hits with devastating force. Peterson describes this moment as one of the most disturbing experiences a human being can go through. It's not just admitting mistakes or acknowledging failure, it's being confronted with systematic, organized, irrefutable evidence that you were the common denominator in every destroyed relationship, every ruined career, every emotionally devastated life around you. It could be a detailed file a spouse kept for years, documenting every manipulation, every lie, every instance of emotional abuse. It could be adult children presenting a united front with specific examples of psychological manipulation dating back to their childhoods. It could be a legal proceeding where colleagues testify about systematic patterns of bullying, sabotage, and workplace abuse. But can everyone process this kind of reality collision? Peterson's research reveals something deeply disturbing. Most narcissists, when confronted with overwhelming evidence of their own destructiveness, don't break in ways that lead to growth. They break in ways that lead to further fragmentation and denial. Can you imagine your mind literally rejecting information that is factual and undeniable? Peterson explains that some narcissists, when hit by the full reality of their actions, enter dissociative states where they literally disconnect from the information being presented. It's as if the brain, recognizing that this information would destroy their entire sense of self, simply refused to process it. Let us know in the comments if you've ever witnessed someone entering this type of dissociation when confronted with undeniable evidence of their behavior, o primeiro estágio do reality collision, que Peterson chama de system overload, é caracterizado por uma negação so desperate que borders on delusional. They don't just deny specific accusations, They deny entire categories of evidence. They question the motives of everyone involved, create elaborate conspiracy theories to explain why so many people would lie about them, and sometimes even question their own memory e perception. Peterson documentou casos onde narcisistas, when presented come years of documented evidence of their behavior, insist that the documents were fabricated, que recordings were doctored, que witnesses were coached. A level of reality rejection that can be genuinely disturbing to witness. But what comes after this initial denial can be even more devastating. Peterson describes what he calls a defensive collapse, where all of their elaborate psychological defenses fail simultaneously, leaving them completely exposed to the full weight of their own actions. It's in this moment that the real breakdown begins. Não é apenas emotional distress. É uma complete unraveling of their sense of identity, their understanding of their place no mundo, their beliefs about their own character and worth. They're watching someone's entire psychological structure crumble in real time. But what happens next will shock you deeply. Peterson revealed that narcissists experiencing this type of reality collision frequently develop what he calls action replay syndrome, where they become obsessively focused on reliving and reanalyzing every destructive action they've ever taken, but not from a perspective of learning or growth. Instead, they become trapped in endless loops of self-recrimination, that paradoxically becomes another form of self-absorption. They spend hours, sometimes days, obsessing over specific incidents, not because they want to make amends or understand their impact, but because they cannot accept that they were capable of such behavior. And here's the most terrifying part. According to Peterson, many narcissists in the breakdown phase develop what he calls the victimization projection law, where they somehow manage to transform even their own recognition of their destructive behavior into evidence that they are the real victims. They become victims of their own terrible realization, victims of their unbearable guilt, victims of their overwhelming shame. É uma forma ainda mais sophisticada of avoiding genuine accountability, transforming até mesmo their breakdown into uma performance que solicita sympathy e support. Você consegue imaginar being so psychologically invested in victim identity that even confronting your own victimization of others becomes reframed as victimization of yourself? Peterson descreve isso as one of the most psychologically sophisticated forms of reality distortion he's encountered. But let me tell you something that will completely change your perspective on narcissistic breakdowns. According to Peterson's research, there's a crucial difference between narcissists who break down and never recover, and those who successfully use the breakdown as a catalyst for genuine change. The difference lies in the ability to maintain what Peterson calls integrated responsibility, being able to accept full ownership of their destructive actions while still maintaining enough psychological coherence to function and potentially change behavior. It's an extraordinarily rare skill that requires enormous psychological strength. Peterson argues that most people, narcissists or not, simply lack this capacity. We are psychologically designed to maintain some level of positive self-regard, because complete self-condemnation without any protective psychological buffers can be literally suicidal. For narcissists who have constructed entire identities around grandiose self-perception, accepting full responsibility can be psychologically unbearable. And then a question arises that few have the courage to explore. Is forcing someone to face the full reality of their destructive actions always therapeutic? Peterson, with his pragmatic but deeply humane perspective, suggests that it isn't necessarily. He argues that some people may lack the psychological infrastructure to handle a complete reality collision without permanently fragmenting. But here's something that will completely disturb you. Peterson revealed that even narcissists who successfully navigate their breakdown, who accept full responsibility for their actions, who appear to undergo genuine personality change. Even these frequently find ways to use their breakdown experience as a new source of admiration and validation. They become the transformed narcissista, one who talks openly about their journey through breakdown, who shares their insights about their own destructiveness, who uses their apparent honesty of vulnerability as a way to gain respect e attention. É narcisismo disfarçado de recovery, using even genuine breakdown as uma performance to maintain their place at the center of attention. Peterson describes isso as breakdown narcissism, narcissism about your own capacity to face difficult truths about yourself. É uma forma ainda mais sophisticated of maintaining grandiose self-perception, where the ability to break down and confront your own actions becomes the new source of superiority over others. Leave your thoughts below. Is it possible for a narcissist to have a genuine breakdown without turning it into just another performance? A resposta de Peterson é deeply pessimistic. Ele documenta extremely rare cases where narcissistas, after genuine breakdown over their actions, withdraw completely from seeking external validation about their recovery process. They stop talking about their insights, stop seeking credit for their growth, stop trying to impress others come their newfound wisdom. Instead, they quietly dedicate themselves to minimizing future damage, some expectation of recognition. But this kind of authentic breakdown, followed by genuine behavioral change, is extraordinarily uncommon. Peterson estimates que less than 1% of narcisistas que experience reality collision breakdown conseguem resist the temptation to use that breakdown. É uma nova forma of narcissistic supply. E aqui está, algo que ninguém te conta about narcissistic breakdowns. They can be extremely manipulative, mesmo quando they appear completely genuine. Peterson frequently warns families que breakdown behaviors, crying, self-recrimination, apparent recognition of harm caused, podem be performed specifically to regain control e sympathy. The challenge for family members é determining quando uma breakdown é genuine versus performative. Peterson estabelece specific criteria. Genuine breakdown is followed by sustained behavioral change, same need for recognition. Performative breakdown is followed by expectation of forgiveness, requests for sympathy, e gradual return to previous patterns of behavior. O que você vai descobrir agora vai transformar your understanding of intervention timing. Peterson revelou que reality collisions cannot be artificially created or scheduled. They happen quando the narcissista's psychological defenses can no longer maintain their distortion field against overwhelming evidence. Esse timing varies dramatically between individuals. Attempting to force a reality collision pode result in greater resistance, mais elaborate defensive strategies, or in some cases, permanent psychological fragmentation que makes genuine recovery even less likely. This means que families and friends of narcissistas often find themselves in uma impossible position, wanting to create the confrontation que might lead to genuine change, mas sendo unable to control quando ou if such a confrontation will be effective rather than simply destructive. Peterson também warns about something deeply disturbing. Nossa sociedade atual makes genuine reality collisions extremely difficult to achieve. Social media, cancel culture, polarized politics. Everything creates environments on people can find support communities que validate any narrative about themselves. No matter how distorted, a narcissist who breaks down over their actions in 2024 can immediately find online communities que will tell them they're actually the victim, where their breakdown proves how sensitive they are, que anyone criticizing them is toxic or abusive. These support systems can prevent genuine reality collision from ever occurring. And here's the final question that will haunt you. If genuine reality collisions are so rare and so potentially destructive, what does this mean for people who have been hurt by narcissists? Peterson suggests that most victims will never see their abusers experience a genuine breakdown that leads to lasting change. Most will never receive the acknowledgement and behavioral change they deserve. This places enormous burden on victims. They must find healing, a closure waiting for breakdowns, que may never come, you may be performed, rather than genuine. É uma harsh reality. Mas Peterson argues que waiting for narcissistas to genuinely break down over their actions pod keep victims trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment indefinitely. The ultimate message is paradoxical. Find strength in accepting que some people may never genuinely break down over their actions, no matter how much evidence they're presented with or how much pain they cause. Build your life, your relationships, your sense of justice in ways that don't depend on their capacity for genuine remorse or behavioral change. Because true healing from narcissistic abuse comes not from waiting for your abuser to break down genuinely, but from breaking free yourself, understanding their limitations, accepting their probable inability to change, and building them a life that doesn't require their acknowledgement for your own sense of worth and closure. If you've made it this far, you're beginning to understand that dealing effectively with narcissists requires accepting that their breakdowns, when they happen, are more likely to be performances than genuine transformations. In the next video, we'll explore how Jordan Peterson analyzes the narcissist's collapse when they confront their shadow, and why Carl Jung's concept of shadow work can be literally impossible for true narcissists. Subscribe and hit the bell, because this journey is revealing uncomfortable truths about human nature that will forever change how you evaluate sincerity and genuine change in others.